John Hinderaker, welcome back to Outsiders.
Hi, Rowan. It's great to be with you again.
Now, I know they were sending you emails as well. Everyone, I've been inundated, you've been inundated, thousands and thousands. I mean, it's a very high-rating show, so you've got to understand why. Thousands and thousands of Outsiders viewers across Australia haven't been able to get a wink of sleep all week because they were driven mad, not knowing what you were going to say when I so rudely and stupidly cut you off. So, John Hinderaker, your point 3 was...
Well, we were talking about the COVID-19 epidemic and whether it's going to have a significant impact on the presidential race this year. And I made a couple of preliminary points, and then I was going to make the big picture point, which is, unfortunately, yes, I think it's having a major impact, sadly. And the reason for that is that any incumbent president wants to run for re-election on a platform of peace and prosperity. And until this epidemic came along, President Trump was perfectly positioned to do that. No foreign wars, despite advancing American interests overseas, and probably the best economy this country's ever had. So peace and prosperity, that's a winning combination. And unfortunately, that's completely changed, not because of the virus, but because of the shutdowns that the various states have ordered in response to the virus, which have devastated our economy, have unemployed millions and millions of people, have added countless trillions to the national debt, or will, and have really changed the whole sense about the well-being of the country. And so obviously, it's not fair. It's not Trump's fault. We all get that. But the fact is that the number one argument in favor of Trump's re-election, which is the wonderful economy, has now been taken off the table. And that does change the election picture, I think, quite dramatically. Before this happened, I would have given the Democrats maybe a 5 to 10% chance of winning in November. Now, I don't know. I think it might be more like 40 or 50%. We'll see.
Wow, Rita.
Trump's already talking about, we've done it once, we can do it again. He's already talking about that rebuild. Do you think that's a message that's going to resonate with the electorate, or are the unemployment numbers just going to be too grim to overcome what's happened with coronavirus?
Well, it should resonate. I mean, the fact that the virus hit, the shutdowns took place, millions are unemployed, that's not an argument for socialism. That's not an argument for Joe Biden. It ought to resonate with voters to say, hey, look, we got to this high level before, we can do it again, stick with me. But, politics can be a really primitive business, and a lot depends on how people feel about how things are going. And I think there's going to be some impact, even though it's not completely logical.
James.
Is there a danger here for the Democrats that they are going to overreach with all of these lockdowns and shutdowns of the economy? Because it seems to me that the left, broadly speaking, seems to be much more in favor of shutting things down, slowing things down, keeping people at home, keeping people from going to the shops and buying garden seeds or anything that's deemed unessential, and kind of loving the power of all of this. Does this overreach, and we've seen it so many times with other issues with Trump, does this give Trump something to run against for all the people who are really angry about this, that he can focus their anger not on him or even on China, but on the Democrats who can be blamed for really tearing up the economy?
Well, I sure hope so. We're starting to see demonstrations across the country. There was a good-sized one in Orange County, California this morning against their governor's closing of all the beaches in California, if you can imagine that. And we're seeing that in Michigan, my state, Minnesota, around the country. But that still seems to be a minority view. I mean, if you look at the poll data, it looks like most people are frightened about the virus and supportive of even pretty draconian shutdown measures, social isolation measures, in part because I think a lot of people don't understand that when the shutdowns are over and we all come out of our houses, the virus is still there. It's still going to spread. People are still going to get it. So I think there's a lot of confusion right now. And I hope that by November, people will understand that you want to be on the side of opening the economy and getting back to economic growth.
Rita.
Just back on the chances of Trump during the election, there was a poll that just came out in the last couple of days, a Gallup poll showing he's recorded a 6% jump, his best figures there. How do you read that? Is just that a rogue poll, or are people more receptive to his handling of this crisis?
Yeah, that poll is different from most of the ones that I've seen, a little more optimistic for Trump. I don't think polls at this stage mean very much. They really, historically, they don't mean much of anything. And I think almost everybody in the U.S. has their minds made up about Donald Trump. You know, some people love him, some people hate him, some people will vote for him as the lesser of two evils. The biggest thing he has going for him is that apparently he's going to get to run against Joe Biden. And that's better than running against Hillary Clinton, who I thought was the worst candidate any party has ever nominated.
James, very quick question, and then I'll cut John off again, as I always do, as he gets to his second point.
Very quickly, do you think the Democrats are going to stick with Biden to the election, or will they swap him out for somebody else?
They're looking for a way out. I'm not sure Biden can make it to November. I think it's about 50-50 whether he's actually on the ballot in November. The Democrats would like to get rid of him.
Oh, come on, you've got to keep going so I can say, that's it, we're going to an ad break now.
Okay.
John.
Oh, no. Who's the tip? If he doesn't make it to the election, who's your hot tip to replace him?
I don't have a hot tip. Their problem is they don't have anybody else. It's a big, big problem. And if they don't go with Sanders, which they don't want to do, his fans will be very upset. So it's a very tough situation for them.
John Hinderaker, thanks so much for coming back on. Powerline blog, people must get onto that, and hopefully we'll see you in a month or so. Thanks so much for getting back on this week. Fantastic. Thanks, mate.